Welcome to another video tutorial. In this video, we're going to take a look at navigation. So let's first of all start with where is navigation and how do you use it? So when you're editing a map, you have the map tools options on the left-hand side here. So this one, the place mode, F1, is how you place objects in your map. And then the next one, edit, is how you then select things. And if I press delete, I can delete the things I'm selecting. For example, I could delete that tree if I wanted. And then the next one across, connect. This is how you draw your navigation lines. So navigation in RPG in a Box is done via this grid-based line system. Okay. Now the shortcut for these buttons here is F1, F2, and F3. So if we go full screen for a minute, if I just press F3, then I'm in navigation mode. If I press F2, then I'm in edit mode, and F1, I'm in place mode. So if I go back to F3, now you'll notice this box in the upper left-hand side here has the navigation types in it. Walk and interact, walk only, interact only, and pending. We'll go over each of those in a second. But if you want to change which navigation type you place, you can just click on the coloured square. Alternatively, if you press N on the keyboard, then each time you press N, it will cycle through this list. So for example, if I wanted to draw up interact only lines, then I can either click it or I can press N until the highlighted white grid is over the orange coloured square. And now when I draw lines, they're going to be the orange lines rather than the green lines. Okay. So how do you first of all place navigation? We'll go over the different types in a second. Let's first of all talk about how to create navigation. So once you've selected the line you want, so let's say walk and interact, then you just hover over a white pulsating cube, as you can see here. And if I click and hold the left mouse button and drag, it draws a line. And you can just keep dragging it to build your grid of lines. And everywhere there's a green line connected to another green line, that's where the player can walk. Okay? If it's a green line, of course. If you want to delete navigation, there's two ways of doing it. You can either hold down the right mouse button when you are hovering over a white flashing cube like this. So if I hold down the right mouse button and drag backwards, I delete that particular line, and then I could do this one going that way. Or you can just hover over a central flashing cube like this and just press the delete key, and that does all of the ones in the middle. So I can just press delete as much as I want, and then if I press click and hold, I can draw them back. Okay, let's just quickly add these buttons back. Right, so let's go over the different navigation types. So we've got 4 types. We've got walk and interact, walk only, interact only, and pending. Now, when you create a tile, when you're in the voxel editor, so let's come out of this for a second and double click a tile. Here's one, for example. You specify whether it is passable or not. So this one, for example, is passable. So what that means when a tile is passable, when you're in the map editor, in the map tools section, there's an option here which you can turn off, but if you leave it on, auto connect navigation means that whenever you place a tile that is passable, it will automatically draw these lines for you. So for example, if I drag out a row of these tiles, you can see it automatically connects them up with the green walk and interact line. Okay. Now I don't know if you change the type, I don't think it does work like that. Let's see. No. So it defaults to walk and interact, but obviously if you want to change the type, you would just go to navigation mode, so F3, press N or click on the yellow square, and then just drag over the top to change the color of these lines if you wanted a different set of navigation. Okay. However, let's go over the different types of navigation. So let's quickly put this back. So walk and interact is the default setting when you place tiles that are passable. It puts green lines down for you. And most maps will have this sort of grid system that you can see in this map, where there's lots of green lines going around the map. And wherever there's a green line, that's where the player and other characters can move. Now, walk and interact means that not only can a character walk around this grid, but it can also interact with things on this grid. So, for example, if I was to put this book down, for example, let's say on this tile here, and reconnect the navigation up, then not only would I be able to walk onto this tile, but I could also interact with the book on this tile, because walk and interact is what mode this line is using. However, if I was to switch it to walk only and draw over the top, then now I can walk onto this tile, I can walk onto the book, but I can't interact with it. I wouldn't be able to run any scripts that are on it or anything like that. I wouldn't be able to click on it because it has no interact lines. Interact only is the flip side of that. So if I draw orange lines over the top, then now I can't walk onto either of these. I can't walk into that center tile from either direction, either from the left or the right or from the tile below. I can interact with the book, however, because it's an interact line. So from here, I can interact with this book. From here, I can interact with this book. And from here, I can interact with the book. But I just can't move onto that tile because none of these lines are walk lines. They're not walk and interact, and they're not walk only. So that's what the orange lines dictate, that you can only interact from that spot. You can't move to the spot. So for example, there's a couple that I have set up here. So for example, here's an orange line going to this bench. In game, you're not going to be able to walk to the bench, but you can interact with the book that is on the bench. And here, for example, here's an interact line that's going to this building. You don't actually physically move towards the building, but from here, it will run the script that's on the building. And in this case, it teleports you to an interior for the building. So there's a couple of examples of what interact only is used for. And then last of all, we have pending. And pending is this sort of purple line that you can see here. Pending basically means that you're not going to be able to interact or move, but there is a physical connection made. So this book, for example, has navigation connected to it, and these tiles are all connected, but it's just in-game, if you were to run this game and play it, there's no way you could move from this tile to this one, or from this one to this one, or from this one to this one, and also you can't interact with the book. So it's just complete. It's almost as if there isn't any navigation, but there actually is, because they are connected. And pending is usually what you would use when you in game you want to change it at some point. Okay, so those are the 4 navigation types: walk and interact, walk only, interact only, and pending. So you would use interact only whenever you don't want to move but you just want to interact with something. You would use pending when you want to change a navigation later on. You'd use walk only if it's just for areas where you want to walk but not interact with anything. And walk and interact is usually the standard default navigation. It means you can walk and interact. So the whole of the sort of navigation system is open to you, if you will, when you use the green lines.